The sepia-toned photograph appeared unremarkable at first glance. A Victorian family gathered around an ornate coffin, their faces etched with the familiar mask of grief that defined funeral portraits of the 1890s. The women wore black mourning dresses with high collars. The men stood rigid in dark suits, and children clutched their parents' hands with solemn expressions that seemed too mature for their young faces. But hidden within this seemingly ordinary funeral photograph lay a secret that would challenge everything historians thought they knew about 19th century communication networks. For over a century, this image sat forgotten in archives, its mystery locked away behind the limitations of photographic technology. The small brass plaque adorning the coffin's surface remained frustratingly illegible, its inscription reduced to mere shadows and light. Family descendants occasionally mentioned strange stories about their ancestors, tales dismissed as folklore and embellishment, yet the photograph itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the moment when modern science could finally reveal what the Victorian mourners had so carefully concealed. Dr. Margaret Thornfield had spent 15 years cataloging 19th century photographs for the Historical Society of New England when she first encountered the funeral portrait in a musty storage room beneath the Boston Public Library. As a specialist in Victorian photography, she had examined thousands of similar images, but something about this particular photograph made her pause. The composition was unusual. While most funeral portraits focused on the grieving family, this image seemed deliberately centered on the coffin itself, as if the photographer had been instructed to capture every detail of the ornate casket and its mysterious brass plaque. The photograph bore a simple notation on its reverse side: Whitmore Family, October 1898, Boston. No other documentation accompanied the image. No death certificate or obituary clipping that typically accompanied archived funeral photographs. Dr. Thornfield found herself returning to the image repeatedly, drawn by an inexplicable sense that she was missing something crucial. The family's expressions, while appropriately somber, seemed to carry an undercurrent of tension that went beyond typical grief. Their eyes seemed to dart toward the coffin with a frequency that suggested the plaque held significance beyond a simple memorial inscription. Intrigued by the photograph's subtle strangeness, Dr. Thornfield decided to investigate further. She knew that modern digital enhancement techniques had revolutionized the study of historical photographs, allowing researchers to extract details that were previously invisible to the naked eye. If the brass plaque contained any readable text, contemporary technology might finally reveal its secrets. Dr. Thornfield contacted James Chen, a digital imaging specialist at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, who had gained recognition for his work enhancing historical documents and photographs. Chen's laboratory was equipped with sophisticated scanning equipment and proprietary software algorithms designed specifically for recovering lost details from aged photographic materials. When Dr. Thornfield explained her interest in the mysterious plaque, Chen immediately agreed to take on the project. The enhancement process required extraordinary precision. Chen began by creating ultra-high-resolution scans of the original photograph, capturing details at the microscopic level. The brass plaque, no larger than a business card in the original image, became the focus of intense digital scrutiny. Using advanced algorithms designed to amplify contrast and reduce visual noise, Chen slowly began to coax readable text from the shadows that had obscured the plaque for over a century. The first enhancement session produced disappointing results. The plaque remained largely illegible, showing only fragments of what appeared to be engraved text. However, Chen noticed something peculiar about the markings. rather than the expected name and death date typical of funeral plaques. The visible portions seemed to contain numbers and symbols arranged in an unusual pattern. This discovery prompted Chen to adjust his enhancement parameters, focusing specifically on mathematical precision rather than traditional text recognition. After 3 days of intensive digital processing, Chen achieved his breakthrough. The brass plaque's inscription became clearly visible for the first time since 1898. But instead of revealing a touching memorial message, the enhanced image displayed a series of cryptic symbols and numbers that defied conventional interpretation. The inscription read, RR 47, TB 23, AC 61, 10 15 98, VF 112. Below these characters, a smaller line contained additional symbols that appeared to be some form of coded notation. Dr. Thornfield stared at the enhanced image with growing fascination and confusion. The symbols bore no resemblance to typical Victorian memorial inscriptions. The numbers seemed too systematic to be random, and the date, October 15th, 1898, suggested October 15th, 1898, just 2 days after the photograph had been taken according to its archival notation. This timing discrepancy raised immediate questions about the photograph's actual purpose and the true nature of the Whitmore family gathering. Determined to understand the plaque's meaning, Dr. Thornfield began researching the Whitmore family history. Public records revealed that the family had been prominent members of Boston's financial community during the late 19th century. Samuel Whitmore, the patriarch visible in the photograph, had worked as a broker on State Street, dealing primarily in railroad and textile stocks. This occupational detail proved crucial when Dr. Thornfield began to decipher the mysterious symbols on the plaque. The breakthrough came when Dr. Thornfield realized that the letter number combinations on the plaque corresponded to stock ticker symbols used by Boston's financial district in 1898. RR47 likely referred to a railroad company's stock price, TB23 to a textile business, and AC61 to an agricultural concern. The systematic nature of these notations suggested that the funeral plaque was not commemorating a death, but rather communicating financial information in a highly sophisticated and secretive manner. This revelation prompted Dr. Thornfield to contact the Whitmore family's modern descendants. Through genealogical research, she located Eleanor Whitmore Harrison, a retired librarian living in Cambridge who had grown up hearing family stories about her Victorian ancestors. When Dr. Thornfield explained her discovery, Eleanor's response was both illuminating and deeply unsettling. Eleanor revealed that the Whitmore family had always maintained unusual traditions around death and mourning. Family legends spoke of ancestors who were careful with details and who possessed an uncanny ability to anticipate business trends and market movements. Eleanor's grandmother had once mentioned that the family's prosperity during the volatile economic periods of the late 1800s had been attributed to their participation in a network of careful observers, though no one had ever explained what this phrase actually meant. Most disturbing of all, Eleanor confirmed that no family member had actually died in October 1898. The funeral photograph had been staged, though the family had never discussed why such an elaborate deception had been necessary. This revelation transformed the entire investigation, shifting focus from historical curiosity to the uncovering of what appeared to be a sophisticated 19th century intelligence operation. Dr. Thornfield and Chen began intensive research into the financial markets of October 1898, focusing specifically on the stocks referenced in the plaque's coded message. What they discovered defied rational explanation. The numbers on the plaque accurately predicted the exact stock prices that would occur on October 15th, 1898, 2 days after the photograph was taken. More remarkably, these predictions anticipated the beginning of a significant market downturn that would not become apparent to most investors until several days later. The research revealed that railroad stocks, which traded at 47 points on October 15th as predicted by the plaque, would begin a steep decline the following week due to unexpected labor disputes. Textile businesses, predicted to trade at 23 points, were similarly affected by supply chain disruptions that had not yet become public knowledge. Agricultural concerns, forecasted at 61 points, would face challenges from early frost damage that would not be reported in newspapers until October 17. The accuracy of these predictions was statistically impossible unless the Whitmore family had access to information that existed nowhere in the public record at the time the photograph was taken. This realization led Dr. Thornfield and Chen to a startling conclusion. The staged funeral had been a method of communicating highly sensitive financial intelligence through what appeared to be an innocent family photograph. The funeral format provided perfect camouflage for such communication. Victorian mourning customs were so rigid and socially protected that few people would examine a funeral photograph closely or question the family's behavior during their supposed time of grief. The brass plaque, ostensibly a memorial marker, could carry coded messages without arousing suspicion from casual observers. The photograph itself served as a permanent record that could be shared among network members while maintaining absolute secrecy about its true purpose. Further investigation revealed that the Whitmore family was likely part of a sophisticated information network that operated throughout New England's financial centers during the 1890s. This network appears to have used various forms of coded communication, including stage photographs, fabricated obituaries, and false memorial services to share intelligence about market conditions, business opportunities, and economic threats. The precision of their predictions suggests access to information sources that remain mysterious, even by contemporary standards. The VF112 notation on the plaque proved to be the most enigmatic element of the entire discovery. Dr. Thornfield's research suggested that this code referred to a validation system, possibly indicating that the message had been verified by multiple sources within the network. The number 112 might have corresponded to a specific member identifier or represented the confidence level assigned to the enclosed predictions. However, without additional examples of the network's communication methods, the exact meaning of this notation remained frustratingly elusive. The investigation reached its climax when Dr. Thornfield discovered a brief mention in Samuel Whitmore's private papers, archived separately from the photograph collection. A single journal entry dated October 13th, 1898, contained a cryptic note. The arrangement proceeds as discussed. The family understands their role. May God forgive us for what we must do to protect what we have built. This entry, written on the same day the funeral photograph was taken, provided the final confirmation that the Whitmore family had deliberately participated in an elaborate deception for purposes that extended far beyond simple financial gain. The enhanced funeral photograph now revealed itself as an artifact of a hidden world that existed parallel to Victorian society's public face. The mourning family's expressions, once interpreted as grief, could now be understood as the tension of people engaged in a dangerous masquerade. Their eyes, which had seemed to dart nervously toward the coffin, were actually checking to ensure that the coded plaque remained properly positioned for the photographer's documentation, the network's sophistication suggested coordination that extended beyond individual families or businesses. The accuracy of their market predictions implied access to information that should not have existed, even among the most well-connected financial professionals of the era. This raised disturbing questions about the sources of their intelligence and the methods they employed to gather information that proved so remarkably prescient. Dr. Thornfield concluded her investigation with more questions than answers. While the photograph's immediate mystery had been solved, the larger implications of the discovery remained deeply unsettling. The Whitmore family and their associates had operated a level of financial intelligence gathering that seems advanced even by contemporary standards. Their ability to predict market movements with such precision suggested either extraordinary analytical capabilities or access to information through channels that history has forgotten. The case was officially closed when Dr. Thornfield submitted her findings to the Historical Society, but the core anomaly remained unresolved. No conventional explanation could account for the network's predictive accuracy or the sophisticated methods they employed for communication and coordination. The enhanced photograph stood as evidence of a hidden dimension of 19th century American society that operated according to rules and principles that conventional history had never recognized. James Chen's final analysis revealed additional disturbing details that had initially escaped notice. The photograph's composition displayed technical precision that exceeded typical funeral photography of the era. The lighting had been carefully arranged to ensure the brass plaque remained visible despite its small size, suggesting the photographer was complicit in the deception. Camera angles and focal points had been deliberately calculated to maximize the plaque's legibility while maintaining the photograph's appearance as a spontaneous family portrait. More troubling still, Eleanor Whitmore Harrison revealed that similar photographs existed in other family collections throughout New England. Her research into family correspondence uncovered references to memorial gatherings that had occurred in Salem, Providence, and Hartford during the same period, all featuring families with connections to Boston's financial district. These discoveries suggested that the Whitmore photograph was not an isolated incident, but rather one documented example of a widespread communication system that operated across multiple cities. Dr. Thornfield attempted to locate these additional photographs, but her inquiries were met with unexpected resistance from historical societies and private collectors. Several archives claimed their records had been lost or destroyed, while family descendants became evasive when questioned about their Victorian ancestors' photographic collections. This pattern of obstruction suggested that knowledge of the network's activities persisted among certain circles, even more than a century after the original events. The investigation took an even more disturbing turn when Dr. Thornfield discovered that Samuel Whitmore's financial records contained transactions that defied logical explanation. Bank deposits appeared in his accounts on dates that preceded the market movements his predictions had anticipated, suggesting he had not merely forecasted events, but had somehow profited from knowledge of their precise timing. These financial anomalies indicated that the network possessed capabilities that transcended simple intelligence gathering and moved into territory that challenged fundamental assumptions about cause and effect in financial markets. Chen's continued analysis of the photograph revealed microscopic details that had initially escaped detection. Hidden within the ornate patterns of the coffin's metalwork were additional symbols, so small they were virtually invisible to the naked eye. These micro-engravings appeared to contain supplementary coded information, suggesting that the brass plaque was merely the most obvious layer of a multi-tiered communication system. The photograph itself had been designed as a complex information storage device with multiple levels of encoded data embedded throughout its composition. Perhaps most unsettling of all, Eleanor Whitmore Harrison admitted that certain family traditions had persisted into the modern era. She spoke in hushed tones about relatives who still gathered for memorial services where no one had died, and about family investment decisions that seemed to anticipate market movements with uncanny accuracy. Her grandmother's final words, spoken on her deathbed in 1987, had been a cryptic warning. The arrangement still protects us, but the price grows heavier with each generation. Today, the funeral photograph hangs in a different location within the Historical Society's collection. Visitors who pause to examine the image see the same Victorian family gathered around their ornate coffin, but the photograph now carries an entirely different meaning. The brass plaque, once invisible and forgotten, has become a window into a world where death was performance. Mourning was masquerade, and the most innocent family gathering concealed secrets that challenged the fundamental assumptions about how information moved through society more than a century ago. The somber expressions that once appeared to reflect simple grief now seem to suggest something far more complex. The quiet triumph of people who possessed forbidden knowledge, mixed with the constant dread of maintaining a secret that could never be safely shared. The photograph's greatest mystery was not what it revealed, but what it suggested about the hidden networks and forgotten methods of communication that shaped American history in ways that traditional records never documented.